Hi! In this video, we'll show you on how to troubleshoot PCs.
This also includes some ideas and safety procedures in disassembling and assembling of system unit.
So get ready as we unveil one of the fastest growing technology today.
To begin, let's discuss first what is a computer. A computer is an electronic device that manipulates information or data. It has the ability to store, retrieve, and process data. You probably already know that you can use a computer to type documents, send email, play games, and browse the web. You can also use it to edit or create spreadsheets, presentation, and even videos. We have two fundamentals of computer, namely hardware and software. Let's focus first on hardware. Hardware or devices is the physical parts of computer. When we say physical parts, these devices are touchable. Basically, we have three types of devices. These are input, output, and storage devices. Input devices is a peripheral used to provide data and control signals to the computer. Example of these are output devices, on the other hand, used to transfer data out of the computer in the form of text, images, sounds, or other media. Example of these are lastly, storage device is a device for recording or storing information or data. Examples are Now, let's talk about software. Software is a general term for the various kinds of programs used to operate computers and related devices. There are two types of software. One is the system software and two is the application software. System software or operating system allows the parts of computer to work together by performing tasks like transferring data between memory and disk or rendering output onto a display device. In contrast to system software, programs that allow users to do things like create text documents, play games, listen to music, or web browser to surf the web are called application softwares.
Get the picture? Now, let's talk all about motherboard. Motherboard is the main circuit board of the computer. It contains necessary elements of the computer such as memory, processor, slots for graphic card, and other peripheral cards. Let's jump into the motherboard and see its major components. The basic input-output system or BIOS is the built-in software that contains all the code required to control the keyboard. It is the first thing you see on your PC screen. Central Processing Unit or CPU, or commonly called processor, is the brain of the computer where most calculations takes place. In terms of computing power, the CPU is the most important element of a computer system. CPU socket or slot is where CPU inserted. Accelerated Graphics Port or AGP, and later on Peripheral Component Interconnect Express or PCIe are connection ports that is exclusive for video cards. Take note that PCIe is faster than AGP. Peripheral Component Interconnect or PCI slot are slots for older expansion cards, such as sound cards, network cards, connector cards. And these are the some kinds of expansion cards we could place it in the PCI slots. Integrated drive electronics or IDE connector connects to older hard drive disks and optical drives for data transfer. Later version of these are SATA or Serial Advanced Technology Attachment, which is faster than IDE. Memory slot or RAM slot is what allows computer memory or RAM to be inserted into the computer. Depending on the motherboard, there will usually be 2 to 4 memory slots, sometimes more on high-end motherboards, and is what determine the type of RAM used with the computer. The most common types of RAM are SDRAM and DDR for desktop computers and SODIMM for laptop computers, each having various types and speeds. Complementary metal oxide semiconductor or CMOS battery supplies power to store BIOS settings and keep the real-time clock running. Northbridge, also called as Memory Control Hub, it is a chipset that allows the CPU to communicate with the RAM and graphics card. Southbridge, also known as the Input or Output Controller Hub or ICH, chipset allows the CPU to communicate with PCI slots, PCI Express 1 slots, or expansion cards, SATA connectors or hard drives, optical drives, and USB devices. 4-pin ATX power connector connects to the 4-pin power cable of a power supply unit which supplies power to the CPU. 20-pin ATX power connector connects to the 20-pin power cable of a power supply that supplies power to the whole component of motherboard. Floppy disk drive port or FDD, it supports 2 floppy disk drive. Let's proceed to the back panel port of the external ports. Personal system or PS2 are the 2 small round ports on the edge, green for the mouse and purple for the keyboard. Parallel port is a 25-pin D-shaped female port used to attach a printer and scanner. Serial port is the 9-pin male enabled to connect older serial such as external modems. Universal Serial Bus Port or USB enables to plug up to 127 different devices at the same time. Network port enables to connect directly to a local network or to the internet via RJ45. Sound port connects to audio devices, green for speakers or line out, pink for microphone, and blue are for connect stereo system to the computer or line in.
Well, that's all about motherboards. Let's proceed to the occupational health and safety procedure in disassembling and assembling system unit. OHS or Occupational Health and Safety refers to the legislation, policies, procedures, and activities that aim to protect the health, safety, and welfare of all people at the workplace. Number 1. Do not work alone so that there's someone who can take care of you in case of emergency. Number 2. Always power off the computer and unplug the computer before working on it. Number 3. Take away any liquid near you working area to avoid getting electrocuted or accidentally damaging computer parts. Number 4. Be careful with tools that may cause short circuit. Number 5. Always ground or discharge yourself before touching any part of the computer. Number 6. Do not use excessive force if things don't quite slip into place. Number 7. Clean the area before and after using it to maintain sanitation and prevent accidents. Number 8. Hold the components on the edge and do not touch the integrated circuit or the IC parts. Number 9. Always wear personal protective equipments or PPE in accordance with the organization OHS procedures and practices. Number 10. Make sure that the pins are properly aligned when connecting a cable connector. Number 11. Contingency measures during workplace accident, fire, and other emergencies are recognized. And lastly, number 12. Use brush, compressed air, or blower in cleaning the computer system.
Now I will demonstrate to you how to disassemble and assemble system unit. Please keep in mind the OHS procedures being discussed a while ago. Before we start, these are the tools we're gonna need. A companion, screwdriver,
Screwdriver.
another screwdriver,
Screwdriver.
some towel, smaller one. Okay. And some rugs, a razor, and last but not the least, scratch papers. Let's proceed. Troubleshooting computers can be a little frustrating and a little tricky. With so many parts and softwares installed, any number of things can go wrong. But when sometimes happen, this is the best opportunity for you to learn, of course provided that you have a few basic under your belt. Nothing beats experience. The more you do it, the better you become, and the more your confidence grows. As the best part, you will save yourself a lot of money. There are many things that can go wrong with a computer. Here, I try to cover the basic to get you going in the right direction. We'll start first with an important tip. When troubleshooting computers, always start with the simple stuff. By that, I mean, there's a tendency to assume that when something happens, it's always due to a major problem when all it could be is a loose cable or something else minor. I have been guilty of this myself. Check easy things first. Now, the real challenge is deciding whether a symptom is hardware or software related. A lot of times this comes through trial and error. Don't be afraid of misdiagnosing a problem. It's going to happen. Just keep at it.
Number 1. Issues during post. When you power on your system, the power supply sends a signal to the CPU, which receives instructions to go to the BIOS to start the boot process. Part of this process is the post, or what we call power on self-test. Problems arising at this stage are almost always hardware. During the post, the devices are found and checked for errors. If everything is fine, the motherboard speaker will usually sound a single short beep and move on to loading the operating system. If something occurs, you will hear some type of beep or see an error message on the screen. BIOS manufacturers have different beep codes, so you will have to know which BIOS system is using. Phoenix and AMI are the two primary makers. Our BIOS was bought out by Phoenix in 1998. You can find the type of BIOS you have by either turning on your computer, assuming of course it comes on, and looking at the top left of the screen. Opening the case and looking at the BIOS chip, consulting the motherboard manufacturer on your company that built your computer. Whichever BIOS you have, the beep codes indicates a memory or video card problem. The usual solution is to check to see if they are fully separated in their slots or replace the part. If using built-in video, then it could be the motherboard. If it's a CPU beep code, your processor might be overheating. Some BIOS setups are set to shut the computer down if the processor is too hot. A malfunctioning processor fan could be the culprit. Turn off the computer and remove the case door. Turn the computer back on and see if the fan is working or running slowly. If it's the fan, replace it. If not, remove the processor and see if there's any physical damage to it. Keep in mind that you will not always see physical damage on a bad CPU. If you don't hear a beep at all, more than likely it's a failing power supply or motherboard. Number 2. Devices not listed in BIOS. Immediately after the post is performed, information about your computer is listed on the screen, including your drives. If you don't see a drive listed, go back and make sure they are installed properly and the cables are firmly connected. No operating system found or similar message. After the post and listed information, the BIOS checks the boot device for the master boot record or MBR, which tells where the operating system or OS is. A drive set to boot with no operating system will produce an error, so make sure your system is set to boot from the right device. Go into CMOS and look under the boot menu to see if the proper boot order is listed. Again, depending on the BIOS, there are various ways to enter CMOS. It's listed at the bottom of the screen soon after you turn on the computer. Most of the time, it's by pressing delete, F1, or F2. In many cases, the DVD drive is first on the list, followed by the hard drive. That's okay. If the DVD drive is empty, the BIOS skips it and starts looking at the hard drives. If there is a non-bootable DVD in the drive, remove it. Your boot drive should be the first option or second if DVD drive is first. Once found, the OS begins to load. Another cause for this message is that the master boot record itself can become corrupted. Number 3. Computer is slow. A computer that runs at a snail's pace is quite annoying, especially when you have a lot of work to get done. Fortunately, many of the common causes are easily fixable. A slow-running computer is often due to viruses and spyware. Another cause can be programs running in the background. Many times when installing new software, by default, they are designed to run when Windows starts. You can look in the tray at the bottom right of the screen to see all the installed software that's running. You can usually stop this from starting with Windows by either right-clicking on the program's icon in the tray and select its properties or options and choose not to have it begin at startup. Or open the entire programs and go to the options or properties menu. Another way to prevent programs from running at startup is to run msconfig. To open msconfig in XP, click Start, Run, type msconfig. In Vista, click Start, type msconfig in the Start Search text box right above the taskbar. The program icon should appear in the white area above the text box. Then, either double-click the icon or press Enter. Go to the Startup tab. There you will see the same programs that are in your tray. You have the choice of disabling them all. Not twice, there is certain software that needs to run when Windows starts, such as antivirus, or individually selecting the ones you don't want to start by unchecking the box next to them. After making your selections, click Apply. Your choices will go into effect the next time you start your computer. Another common reason for a slow computer is not having enough RAM. Installing more can often help the problem. Viruses, spyware. Viruses and spyware can not only slow down your computer, they can render it unusable. Furthermore, certain types of viruses and spyware can transmit your personal information to the attackers. You should always have antivirus running on your system. Limited hard drive space. Number 4. After a long period of time, most of our hard drives contain data we no longer need or that is left over by software not completely uninstalled, eventually leading to a messy drive. Given the size of modern hard drives, this is rarely an issue anymore. In any event, if you are a clean freak like me, you may want to periodically clean house. Windows' built-in disk cleaner tool is a good way to get rid of unwanted files, although there's plenty of other softwares available too. And of course, you can always add an additional hard drive if you need more storage space. To open disk cleanup in XP or Vista, click Start, Programs, Accessories, System Tools, Disk Cleanup, and follow the instructions. Number 5. Fragmented hard drive. When a hard drive is brand new and you begin installing softwares or saving data, Windows tries to keep all the individual files intact, resulting in them being read extremely fast. But after a while, you start deleting things. Well, each time something is deleted, it leaves gaps in your drive. Then, when another program is installed or data saved, individual files are broken up and placed in these gaps all over the drive. This is what is known as a fragmented hard drive. When opening a file or program, the operating system has to scan the entire drive to find parts of files and put them back together, reducing read time. This is why it can seem like forever for a file to open. Defragmenting a hard drive is easy with Windows Disk Defragmenter. It scans your drive for split up files and reassembles them. To open in XP or Vista, click Start, Accessories, System Tools, Disk Defragmenter. Before using Disk Defragmenter, I would suggest running Disk Cleanup first to eliminate unwanted data. As with Disk Cleanup, there are many other third-party defragmenting programs available. Number 6. Non-working devices or devices not recognized. If a device has stopped functioning or isn't recognized by Windows, remember to first check the simple things. Make sure cables and power are plugged in with an internal component. Turn off and unplug the machine. Remove the case door and make sure cables are firmly connected to the device and that add-on cards are seated in their slots. If all is okay, there may be a device driver issue. Device drivers are little pieces of software that allow hardware to work. Reinstall the device driver or download the latest version. Either go to the manufacturer of the device or the company where you bought your computer. If still no success, try uninstalling and reinstalling the device. If the above doesn't produce any result, it is probably the device itself. Number 7. Problems after installing new software or device driver. Of course, you should first uninstall the software or driver, or use the system restore to return your system to a previous working state. To open System Restore in XP or Vista, click Start, Programs, Accessories, System Tools, System Restore. There are times when new programs might freeze up your system. In this case, try to see if you can boot to safe mode and then perform a restore. Safe mode only loads the very basic devices and drivers needed for your system. To get to safe mode, restart your system. When it begins to boot, continuously press the F8 key. A menu should appear that looks similar to the one on the left. Choose safe mode and press enter. After Windows loads, you should get the screen on the right with a black desktop. Start System Restore like described before. Number 8. No power. The main culprit is usually the power supply unit or the PSU. Make sure the power cord is securely plugged into the supply and the wall outlet. If so, you can buy a tester to see whether your PSU is putting out enough voltage. Another cause could be malfunctioning device. Turn off the computer and disconnect all devices. Reinstall each device one by one, turning on the computer after each device. Should your system not come on after installing a particular component, replace it. If your system doesn't come on after reinstalling every devices, you may have a motherboard or CPU problem. Number 9. Spontaneous reboots. A computer that reboots often while you're in Windows or other operating system is another indication of a bad power supply. Or maybe your computer is infected with computer virus. And lastly, number 10. Time keeps changing. If you constantly have to set the time or date clock, that's the main symptom of a bad CMOS battery. Replace it, but just like any other battery, it has to be the same size. Look at the number on your battery and buy one with the same number.